going to talk about the value scale. And we're using value as a way to create the illusion of things being round on a flat surface. And value comes in a lot of different ways. There's ways of using this pencil as a paintbrush, which is what shading is. And then hatching, cross-hatching, stubble, and scribble are ways of using the same concepts of working from light to dark that allows you to add textures to the things that you might be drawing. So I've got one that I've started over here, and they would be finished by going down until you get all the way to the very bottom. Leave the top one blank so you have some white as a contrast. There's little white spaces in between so you have contrast. Let me show you how we come about with these textures. When you hold your pencil in your hand open like this, maybe even way back at the end of the pencil, so you're not putting a lot of pressure, and you're going to slide the pencil lead back and forth across the paper, applying a little bit of color. You can just barely see that color. You're going to make the next box with the same amount of pressure and the same amount of color. Now, I'm not covering up every piece of white that's in this area. Your eye will blend the white and the gray that's there to create another color. Once you look at these and go, oh, those are the same colors, you need to apply a little bit more pressure by pressing harder on your pencil to make it a little bit darker. Then you come to the next box and try to make the same color as you did the last box so that these two match. And when they match, you add a little bit more pressure with the pencil and make it a little darker. And now you might, after this, want to put your finger up here on top and push down on the pencil to add even more pressure. But the key is to use that light pressure, and you can always get a little darker, but once it's too dark, it's hard to get lighter. That's why we always work from light to dark when we're working with value. When we see that these two are the same, we press down a little harder, add a little bit more color, and now we've got a gradual change from light to dark. It's very important that you understand this idea of gradually changing from light to dark. So we're going to make this next one the same color. When they're the same and they match, then you're going to press a little harder. You keep working in increments all the way down the paper until you get down here to as black as the pencil can make. Hatching is a series of lines. So if you had 5 lines here, you'd have 10 lines here. I'm not counting the lines, but basically the idea is you're increasing. If there's 10 lines here, there's going to be 15 lines here. And what's happening is the gray, your eye is mixing the gray with the white, and you're getting a different color. So we're going to have even more lines. We're going to double up on the amount of lines in each box. And these are individual lines. I'm picking the pencil up and making a mark each time. So as I go down with hatching, every time I'm closing up this distance that's in between these, and that your eye is mixing the gray and the white together to make different values or shades. And again, you work your way all the way down to where it's as dark as you can make it. Cross-hatching is the same, except there's twice as many lines. If there's 10 lines here or 5 lines here, then you have to have 10 or 5 lines going the other direction. So if there's 20 lines here, then you're going to have 20 lines going the same direction. Now, you know, every time I do this line, I'm picking the pencil up and drawing a line. I'm not doing a back and forth motion. And you want to keep track of also how hard you press down with the pencil, because that can create darker lines. So you can see the more lines you have and the closer they are together, the darker the area looks. And you keep putting those lines in. By the time you get down here, you may be pressing really hard and making the lines really close together so that there's no white paper showing at all. So that's hatching and cross-hatching. And again, use those techniques for creating textures and things that you're drawing. Well, I was telling you, each time that you do hatching or cross-hatching, you're picking the pencil up and making a line. With Scubble, you're doing a back and forth motion. A back and forth motion. And again, you want more Scubble in here so that this area is darker. When they match, then you add some more. Then you do the same amount here. And here you get this texture that's going back and forth with the pencil. And you can see each area is getting a little darker. You're pressing harder. You're cutting out by how much that paper is showing through and blending through and pressing harder with the pencil, so the lines are getting darker, and that's how you create this texture with stubble. And you keep working your way down. Each one progressively gets a little darker than the last one. Scribble I call figure eights because I like a figure eight, but all of it is a scribble. So when you scribble in some lines like that, your scribble might be loops. You just got to make sure you use smaller loops and larger loops and make the loops go back and forth in the other direction. So each one's got a little bit more, and you can see how this would really make a nice texture for maybe some of these heavy clothing. Might have a weave in it that might look like this, or grass, but it's just an irregular moving of the pencil back and forth, and you're trying to cover up the white paper. And each one has got more of the scribbles. You press down harder, it makes a line thicker and darker, and that's how you can work your way all the way down to the bottom. Even though there's still some white paper showing through here, it's a darker line. So the value scale is a training tool, and you need to understand how this pencil now becomes a paintbrush and makes all of these different colors, because those are very important, because working with value drawing, we want to just use value. We don't want to rely on lines anymore to enclose our shapes. Thank you very much.